Okay, it's time for another video. So let me just read you, as you saw by the title, by today's video. Let me just read you that again, the title. Yeah. If you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. This is part of a quote that I shared in this post that I wrote a few years ago now, and it's by Jung, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now let me read you what I mean by this. Many of us doing this difficult work of recovering and keeping the tradition of the divine feminine, the soul, for the present awakening and for future generations, feel that we are isolated and alone in society because of our deeper level of consciousness. Exactly. If you know more than others, and especially if you have experienced the mystery, the divine God, if you have experienced, if you had the mystic experience of the archetypal, you can't share that with people or with society because no one understands. So you're going to be alone. I think even Jung said something to the effect that because I know more, I must always be alone. Even if I've spoken about this before, you might be in a room full of people, your whole family there, for instance, gathered together for Christmas or whatnot, right? But because you can't share your deepest values, your discoveries, your dreams, your archetypal dreams, you know, your recovery, your relationship to the spirit, the mythological mind or the intuitive mind, the way I call it, you're going to be alone. You know, you can talk about the weather, you can talk about the family problems, you can talk about work, and you can talk about your career or whatever, your kids, but the deeper things, if you can't share it with anyone, you're going to be alone. So that's what I'm trying to say here. Now, to continue what I wrote. Well, as C.G. Jung knew so many years ago, the universe seeing your efforts to heal the cruel belief of the split between matter and spirit will bring to you the people who not only need to learn from you the forgotten insights, but also who will help you with putting it out into our needing to know wounded world too. I spoke about this too. You know, when I started posting my findings and my dreams and my poetry, for instance, on Facebook, or especially on Facebook. I started with Facebook some 12, 13 years ago, I think. People came. One of the very first people that found my work was Eva Reiser. You know who you are. She is a Jungian, a psychotherapist. She does work, one-on-one work with clients, and she also does workshops and so on. I think she did recently. She was in Switzerland, in Zurich, did some work at the Jungian Institute, but she found me. You know, I was completely unknown. I was just starting to post my things, and I thought, geez, you know, no one's going to understand any of this. But she found me. I am sure that many of you, how did you find me? On YouTube, for instance. Or the people that have started to follow me on Facebook since then. How did you find me? Exactly, something nudges you to listen to this or read this or follow this person or that person. Something there is for you to know. And this mystery, this divine or God or whatever you want to call it, you know, spirit nudges you forward, and people find you when you do this work. like I said, conscientiously, when you do it from your heart, something happens and you're not alone. People will find you and help you with things. When I was ready to do my first book in 2018, in fact, I was asked by a friend or by a group of friends to put it into a book. And this was Pamela Ward, you know who you are, and her cats, as she used to call it, her friends, her circle of friends, the woo-woo friends, she calls them, Marek, why don't you put it into a book so we can understand it? When I put it into a book, where we dream the first one was The Mystic Soul. It's just a collection of my poetry in there and my posts from Facebook. The second book, Where We Dream the Single Dream, was I got help with that. I couldn't have done it by myself. I got help with that. I had Pamela again helping me with editing. Things just followed one thing to another. I found the right person, I found the right help, not so much help, for instance, with publishing. I self-published on Amazon. I didn't know you could self-publish until I started looking into it. And one thing led to another. Intuition leads the way. Yeah, and you're going to find the right people, right resources to do what you have to do. You're not alone in this. That's what I'm trying to say. The spirit, the God or divinity is behind you. If you do it properly from the heart, it will help you along. You will find the right people. You will find the right resources. It would help you with research, the whole thing. Yeah. I'm touching the screen because the phone that I'm using as a camera is very, very old, and it wants to update apps, which you can't. It's too old. Anyway. So I'll finish the quote by Jung from that post. I'll put the post in the description so you can read the whole thing. In each aeon, there are at least a few individuals who understood what man's real task consists of, wrote Jung, and keep its tradition for future generations, and a time when insight has reached a deeper and more general level. Yep. First, the way of a few will be changed, and in a few generations there will be more. Whoever is capable of such insight, no matter how isolated he is, should be aware of the law of synchronicity. Jung was huge on synchronicity. I am too, by the way. As the old Chinese saying goes, the right man sitting in his house and thinking the right thought will be heard 100 miles away. Thus, an old alchemist gave the following consolation to one of his disciples. No matter how isolated you are and how lonely you feel, if you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. Exactly. You have help. You're not alone. I know some of you who are following me. I have seen some of your channels. I've watched your watch some of your work, and some of you, for instance, reading intuitively, giving information about the energy in the world, or how you feel things are turning out, what the level of energetic level in the societies and so on. Listen, if you do this work, if you continue doing this, especially if you start to talk about these things which are archetypal, in other words, the recovery of our divinity, the recovery of the soul and our oneness, you will have help with your work. Look at my work. Look at me. I'm not anything special or talented, especially talented. I simply paid attention and go along with it all. First book, second book, my posts, the YouTube channel is, it's not growing or anything because the work is so. Because what I'm talking about is very little understood in our society. So people don't understand, but there is interest. It doesn't mean, you're not going to be popular, or if you talk about especially the archetypal things, the collective unconscious. You're not going to be famous, you're not going to be rich, because that is too deep for people. But that's what needs to be talked about. The main I was going to say interest, but the main thing about the collective unconscious, the missing mind of humanity, or psyche, the half of psyche of humanity, which we all share. You have that within you, all of us do. Has to do with the archetypal. In other words, with our divinity and the recovery of the soul within you, which is also the soul within everyone else on the planet, which gives you the knowledge that we are all one. There are no divisions. The divisions are only brought up on the surface by politicians, by religion, by interests, by traditions, separating you from me. But there are no you and me. It's just one huge family, human family that lives on this home earth. Yeah? Like I said so many times, this is the highest form of consciousness, or enlightenment, if you like. The mystery, the energy that enlivens me is the same energy that enlivens you, the same consciousness. Yeah? We might have, like I've written in one of my, this is the main message, the most important message for the day. Yeah? That there are no others. So when I read what I've written in one of my posts, one of my poetry, is that we are like plants. On the surface we appear different, but underneath we are all rooted in the same ground. That's the message. That was the message of Jesus. That was the message of the Buddha. That was the message of Al-Halaj. That was the message of anyone that came to help us move forward in consciousness to reach that level of our oneness. Oneness in uniqueness. And what we have right now is the birth of the multipolar world. Not one tradition, one nation, one religion, or one political system that dominates everything else. But oneness, everyone equal in their uniqueness, in multipolarity. So you don't force your way of living like the West has been forcing its way of living on others for some 500 years, 400, 500 years. This is different now. Everyone has their own unique way, but underneath all that, we are all friends, if you like. We're not friends, but one family. Multipolarity. That's the birth of the new reality on our planet. And the highest form of this multipolarity is like the astronauts found out when they were circling the Earth above in space. They look down on Earth and there are no borders. The borders are only created in our minds by TV, by religions, by politicians, by traditions, by geographical locations, language, and so on. But if you lift up above all this, there are no borders. So let me get back to what I was saying, that when you do this work, unknown friends or unseen friends will come and find you. I always forget that bit. If you do your work truly and conscientiously, unknown friends will come and seek you. This is not this. It doesn't only mean that it's going to be humans, people that will find you, but the spirit, this mystery, this divinity will find you and help you along. You're not alone in this work. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I remember my time when I was leaving. I write about this in Where We Dream the Single Dream. When I was leaving to travel Scandinavia, because I had that in my dream, that's where I'm going to go next. That was early 90s. At the airport, friends that were supporting me, supporting my spiritual work, they were seeing me off, and they gave me a book. And the book was Dictionary of Symbols by Tom Chetwynd. And what were the symbols? Archetypes. Everything in there was about archetypes. You know, about Tom Chetwynd was really he's gone now. He died years ago, but he was really influenced by the work of Jung. And that's, by the way, how I first heard the name Jung. in his book, Dictionary of Symbols. So you have the archetypes of the self, of the animals, yeah, of the, for instance, of blood, or the colors, or journey. They are all archetypes which dwell and live within you. That's how I found out about the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious, like I've shared with you so many times in these podcasts or in these videos, is the journey to the center, to the top or the apex of the holy mountain. And there at the center, you rediscover who you really are and what the whole world really is. The interconnectedness of all existence. Divinity and its interconnectedness of all existence. So my message for you today in my video is that if you do this work, and if you do this conscientiously from your heart, don't worry about it that the society doesn't understand. It won't, because most people are busy with surviving, being making money and looking after the loans and their kids and whatnot. There's something actually I'm going to make another video about, which is important. Is I found a quote somewhere, I think it was by Jung, where he says that, what do you think Plato would have said or written if he was his own house slave? Or what do you think Jesus would have talked about if he had a family to feed? And that's an important thing to talk about, because I don't see many so-called spiritual and gurus talk about any of this. But when you're called to do this work, especially to bring into society the reality of the collective unconscious, our divinity and its oneness, the recovery of the soul, the interconnectedness of all things, you're going to be talking about things which are not going to be first understood or wanted to be understood in society, and you won't be able to have a family to support because you're not going to make any money. You're going to be marginalized. Buddha left his home, his palace. He was a prince. He would have been a king. So, he was wealthy beyond measure. He left his palace, he left his wife, he had a child. He knew that what he was going to do, he needed to do it alone. He couldn't have stayed in his position as a prince. For instance, if he got enlightened, like he did under the Bodhi tree, and returned and started talking about these things to his people would have thrown stones at him. We don't want to know about this. Your responsibility is to keep us secure and feed us, give us jobs and so on. So that's why he left there. And what happened to Jesus when he started to communicate all this? He was destroyed. They killed him. They killed Al-Halaj for the same reason, when he said, I am God. I can't remember the quote right now. I saw my Lord with the eye of the heart, and I asked him, who are you? And he replied, you. That was his message. They killed Giordano Bruno for 500 years, 5 centuries that they were killing witches, women, the wise women who knew they had a connection, their own intuitive connection to to the spirit, to the nature, to the divine. If you are called to do this work, this deeper work of communicating of the reality of the collective unconscious, our divinity and our oneness, you're gonna have to be, you can't go the normal way of things and start a family and you have to work for the living. You can't, because the two don't go together. I know some of you are gonna go and say, well, Jung did it. C.G. Jung was married to the 3rd richest woman in Switzerland. By our today's standard, he was a billionaire. His wife used to buy him new cars for his birthdays, a sailboat, yachts for his birthdays. He bought himself, was it a block of land or an island on the lake, and built his tower house there. It's still standing there. His mansions, a 2, 3, 4-story mansion, I don't know, somewhere outside of Basel, that's still standing there. He was rich. He could have, I don't know how many kids he had, 7, 10 kids, I don't know. He was busy. He certainly let that, he wasn't holding back, but he could afford it. Not just one football team, he could have had several football teams and still do his work, because he could afford people to look after his kids. Mind you, how many of his kids have followed Jung? Do we know of any? There was something somewhere along the line. I think Emma followed Jung a little bit. Emma Jung, his wife. But his kids, I don't know. I've never really heard of any. So that's the reality. That's the reality of this, that if you are called to do this deeper work of communicating to society about these secret or sacred things, the collective unconscious, you cannot start a family because your time will be spent, unless you're rich like Jung. I don't know, maybe you won the lotto and you're a millionaire, and that's no problem. But otherwise, you're gonna have to, remain by yourself. That doesn't mean you can't have girlfriends or boyfriends, but be wary that if you do get, if you're asked to do this work, it's not going to help you along your path. You'll only prolong the inevitable, because if you're chosen, you're chosen. You gotta go. You gotta do it. I write about this in my book, Where We Dream the Single Dream. I was married for some 11 years. But I left earlier. We divorced later. I left earlier because I knew that this is what I gotta do. This is what's calling me. And I can't be held back. Held back is a terrible way of saying it, but I can't be prevented from doing what I'm doing by personal preferences or whatnot. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. That if you do this work from your heart, you're not alone. People will find you. They will help you along. The spirit will find you and will help you along to find the right people, to find the right resources, the research, the places, like I found, like the people that came along that found me, like you, probably on YouTube or on Facebook, that you found me. How did you find me? But, something clicked, something intuitive said, well, listen to this or read this. This is important. Yeah? All right, that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.